Okay, we have an exciting lesson for you all today. Today, we're going to be learning about plastic chemistry. So, we're going to be learning about all different types of plastics, but we won't spoil it because we want to find out how much you guys know before we get started.
So let's start with plastic chemistry. It's studying how plastics are made and how they work. So scientists who work in the plastic chemistry design test all types of plastic materials, and they try to find ways to recycle plastic because plastic takes a long time to break down. So they try to help make materials every day that can help break down these plastics into little pieces that our Earth could take apart. And then they also work on solving problems related to all the plastic that we have already thrown in the trash over waste over the years. It's a very fun career.
Yeah, so plastic chemists, they study how plastics are made and also how they work. And they try and create better materials than plastic for everyday items. And this is to try and solve the problem with plastic waste. And we're going to talk more about it in a little bit. Jay, did you have a question? No? Okay. So we have a question for you, Wonder Kids. What things are made out of plastic? Can you guys think of some examples of things that are made out of plastic? Jade had one already. Dekai, go ahead.
Water bottle.
A water bottle. Yeah, plastic water bottles. Good job. Luca, can you think of another example?
Toys.
What was that? Sorry?
Some toys.
Toys. Yeah, that's a great example. Lots of your toys, like things like Legos and things like action figures, they're all made out of plastic. Dekai, did you have an answer? You just answered, huh? Jay, did you have something that you know is made out of plastic?
Plastic bags.
Plastic bags. So when you guys go to the grocery store and you guys fill up your bags, a lot of the time they are made of plastic. So as you can see, we use plastic all the time. And we have some examples, and you guys already came up with them on the next slide. So let's see. Uh-oh, we've frozen. Okay. So here are some examples. You guys already came up with them, and there's lots more. So water bottles, good job, Dekai. Plastic bags, Jay came up with plastic bags, and toys. These are all great examples of plastics. So scientists that work as plastic chemists, they study how these are made and then also the best ways to maybe make alternatives. And the reason for this is because all of this plastic ends up in landfills and oceans, and recycling can be challenging. So I use lots of different keywords there that you guys may not have heard before. So before we carry on, we're going to go over some of these keywords.
It's okay. We can start with the first one. Does anybody know what the word recycle means? Yep. Luca?
Let's say you have like a coffee can. You can use that as a pencil holder.
Yes. So you can, recycling is turning old things you already have and turning them into newer things. Like we love to recycle water bottles too, right? Because a water bottle can be melted down and turned into a boat. So there's a lot of things we can reuse. I recycle my plastic trash bags after I go to the grocery. I like to reuse them for my regular bin trash.
Remember when we talked about monomers and polymers, and Izzy asked some great questions too. So another way, which is a more advanced method that we're trying to recycle plastic, is through this process. So as we talked about monomers, which are small building blocks like the bead of a necklace. So here's an example. And like we talked about with the num, this is on a really microscopic level. So we have to be in a lab to be able to do this, okay? And what we can do is do a chemical reaction to make these monomers into a long chain, and we saw this in the video too. So this is a chemical reaction that happens to go from the monomer to the polymer. And guess what? Like we said earlier, plastics are made up of lots and lots of polymers. Okay, lots and lots of chains that join together to make plastic as we know it. Okay, and so now I have a question for you guys. Does anybody know what this arrow means? Or this symbol, should I say? Giovanna?
That it goes back and forth over and over again.
It goes back and forth over and over again, exactly. And so this has a special name. It's called a reversible reaction, okay? It's called a reversible reaction. And this is important when we're trying to deal with the plastic problem, because what this tells us is if we can go in this direction, so if we're able to go from a monomer to a polymer to make our plastic, then we can also go from the polymer back to the monomer again. And like we said, this type of recycling is done in a research lab, okay? This type of recycling is done in a research lab, and it's done by plastic chemists. And we're gonna have somebody come and talk to us on Thursday who does this type of recycling, who studies this type of recycling. So that's really exciting.
Kai has given them very warm welcome. Miss Kai, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Kai. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. I go to USC and I work in a lab, and sometimes I try to make plastic and sometimes I try to break it down so that we can find a way to recycle it and make less trash in the world. Okay. So these are ones that we see all the time, right? These water bottles, balloons. But what if I told you, this is going to be a little shocking maybe, everything on this slide has plastic in it. So, I know, believe it or not, some of the parts, it's not all plastic, but a lot of stuff on here has something in it that's plastic. So like this car up at the top, you might think, cars are made of metal, but what about when you sit on the inside? The dashboard, the handle on the inside, doesn't that feel kind of hard? And when you tap it, it makes kind of like that sound that sounds like plastic, right? So a lot of parts of cars are made out of plastic. And then this one really shocked me. Paints. Paints are made out of a kind of plastic too. I didn't know that. And then guess what? Clothes. So much of our clothes are made out of plastic. So if you have cotton clothes, not plastic. So cotton, we're okay. Everything's fine. But things that are made out of it's called polyester, or things that are stretchy. Those ones that are stretchy clothes, those are made out of plastic. And the clothes I'm wearing right now, kind of a plastic. And then anything, if you're on technology right now, computer, laptop, iPad, those all have plastics in them too. Not all of it, but a lot of stuff is plastic. The tapping noise I'm making right now is on my plastic laptop. This thing is made out of plastic. And then all of them are different kinds of plastics though. So that's why they make different kinds of materials. So it's really cool. And umbrellas and rain boots, the part of the umbrella that makes that round part, that's plastic. Is there anything on here that you don't believe me on? Something that sounds kind of shocking? Yeah, Luca?
The paint.
The paint? You don't believe me on the paint? I know, I don't believe me either. But the paints, so it's kind of cool because a lot of times we think of plastic as it has to be hard or it has to be clear. But sometimes plastics are actually kind of liquidy and they make thick colors. And sometimes in the old days, paint used to be made out of just things you find in nature. Like you smash up a berry and it looks kind of like red or something, right? But now it's hard to find a bunch of berries to give everyone in the world who wants paint. So now we kind of do it by making it by finding ways to make dyes and stuff, and it comes out as a little liquid, and it's a plastic. Mind-blowing. Okay, so we went over what kinds of things are plastic. There's so much more than we even think of. And they're all made out of different things because you can think of them like Legos. So if you have Legos, each block is like a little building block, and we're going to get to play with these later. But each block is like a little building block, and you can put them all together and stack them. And that's like when you make a polymer. So each little piece can be different, and that's like having different materials to make different plastics out of. So if you have these thicker blocks, you can make thicker, bigger structures with the Legos. And if you have these tiny little square blocks, they might make a totally different shape, right? So kind of similar when we're talking about why everything looks so different, but they are all still a kind of plastic.